Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Spitfire Interactive was kind enough to provide me with an early review key for Capes, and I've been playing it for the past couple of days. Unfortunately, even though the embargo dropped today, I've only had the key for a couple of days, so I can't provide you with a full review. But I was able to import my progress for the demo, and I've been able to play it for a while. So I've got about a good 20 hours under my belt, which I understand is around half of the total playtime for the game. So I feel comfortable providing you with my impressions thus far. Some of this information will be very similar to what you heard me talk about when I did my impressions of the demo. But I definitely have some new thoughts now that I've been able to spend some additional time with the game. So hopefully you get something out of this video. I will provide you with a full review once I've been able to complete the game, but for now, this is just some of my thoughts, starting with what I like. So as I mentioned in the last video, I do really like the overall premise, which is that you're in a city that is basically cut off from the rest of the world by a corporation that is run by villains, and they have outlawed superpowers except for the select individuals who are working for them. And anybody who they find stepping out of line or attempting to stand against this corporation is flat out murdered in very, very vicious fashion. So I like the premise of this because it sets up a very desperate story where you're playing as a team of heroes who have very little resources. They're basically hiding out in a cave, trying to figure out how they can stand against this organization that has way more people and resources than what is at their disposal. So this puts you in an underdog role that I really like, and I feel like it carries over well throughout your playthrough. I also like the viciousness of the story. Civilians are killed. The enemy is absolutely ruthless, and so it just adds to your life is really truly on the line, and you're giving it everything you have in order to try to save this city. I think for a game that centers around you playing as superheroes, this feels very, very appropriate, and I really like the way they've set everything up. I also continue to be a fan of the art within this game. Many of the characters that you meet are very, very well drawn. They have a very distinctive visual style. In combat, when you see different moves being performed, it looks absolutely fantastic. I think from a visual standpoint, the game is consistently engaging, and that's part of the joy in finding new heroes as well. All of the heroes look very different. They have very different powers and styles, and it shows up in different ways on their body. I think all of that is handled well, and it looks really, really cool. Speaking of the heroes, they're another big highlight of the game. The mechanics in this game are absolutely fantastic. Each of these heroes feels completely distinct. There isn't classes in this game. Instead, each hero has their own unique list of mechanics based around their superpower, and it develops in different ways over time. So that's kind of the cool aspect of getting all these different heroes, because since they have different play styles, depending on the type of mission that you're doing, some of them will fit in very well and help you to achieve some of those really, really hard to get goals. There is a caveat with all of this, but we'll talk about it in a minute when I speak on some of the things I don't like regarding the game. Sticking with what I do like about the game, though, the puzzle aspect of combat is really, really cool. So combat is deeply punishing, very, very challenging, and it feels like you're trying to solve a puzzle as far as figuring out what combination of party members and their particular mechanics is going to allow you to flat out complete a mission, let alone doing some of the sub challenges that are available to get more skill points. Just getting out of a mission sometimes is very difficult. There are oftentimes a massive amount of enemies that you have to deal with that will come to you in waves. Most times I don't like this. For example, in Midnight Suns, they had that same mechanic where just waves upon waves of foes would come at you, and it was really, really irritating in my opinion to deal with. There's a similar mechanic here, but it doesn't feel as bad because, at least thus far, I don't believe it's used as often, or it's used in a more tasteful manner, for lack of a better word. So sometimes an encounter is difficult because of waves. Other times it's just difficult because of your starting positioning or the types of enemies that you're dealing with. So it's not always numbers in and of itself that is the reason why an encounter is difficult. And so it's not quite as irritating for me as it was in some other games, but we'll see if by the end my mind changes on that. And I feel like they lean too heavy on that option in order to give you more difficulty during challenges. But thus far, combat is really, really engaging, really tough. It forces you to use all of your tactics, and that's just on normal. So there is a harder level, and I'm sure those of you who really, really want the most punishing combat possible will definitely get something out of playing this game. And then the last thing I'll mention that I appreciate is that they do let you use a party of 4 heroes. So many games I see limit you to just 3 party members, and I cannot stand it, especially in a CRPG. In my opinion, the more party members, the merrier. I honestly feel like this is a game that should have 6 party members, like Pillars of Eternity or some of the older Baldur's Gate games, but they gave us 4. I'm not going to complain. Hey, at least we got that much, so I'm really happy about that. There are definitely some things that I don't like so much about the game. The writing continues to be pretty terrible thus far. It's not so bad that it makes you just want to turn the game off, right? But there's always just a hint of cringe in any dialogue that you're listening to. And the story doesn't pull you along at all. There's really no motivation for me to see the ending of the story or see the story develop. I'm just not really engaged with what's happening in the world, which is kind of weird because, like I said before, I love the premise and I think the tone and the vibe of the story is really cool and feels very distinctive. But the actual content that's there, the actual story beats, it's not doing anything for me. That could, of course, improve. I've still got about 10 to 20 more hours to go. And so there's plenty of time for the story to get better, or maybe we're headed for a really, really nice payoff. So I'll circle back to this in the main review to see how I feel about it. The part of this game that I don't think is going to improve at all is the leveling system. And I know some of you are going to disagree with me about this. Many of you, in fact, will probably love this and feel like it's a strength of the game, but it's just not working for me. So when you go into a mission, or rather when you complete a mission, you're going to get experience points, and your party members need experience points so that they can get levels. And there are skills that are basically gate locked behind specific levels. So if you want higher level skills, you need to get to a higher character level so you'll have access to those skills. Now, to actually purchase skills, you need skill points, and you can get those in one of 2 ways. One way is you can complete challenges that each character has to do specific things, like use specific power X amount of times, or knock an enemy off a ledge a certain amount of times, things like that. Each character has their own list of challenges, and most times when you complete one of those challenges, you will receive skill points, right? But it takes a while to get those challenges. Usually you have to complete multiple missions in order to do it. So it's not something you can really bank on. A much more consistent way of getting skill points is during missions. There are sub goals that you can complete, which again will be along the lines of use an ultimate power 6 times, disarm an enemy 5 times, things of that nature. Each one of them will give you a certain amount of skill points. And if you can get all of these sub goals during a particular mission, then they'll also give you extra skill points for having completed that entire list, right? Now, the XP that you get only comes to the party members who participated in that mission. You are limited to only taking 4 party members with you every time. Right now, I have 6 heroes, and it looks like I'm going to get more. And I don't like the fact that I have to play musical chairs with who comes with me on these missions, in order to try on some level to keep everybody properly leveled up, especially in a game like this, which I said is quite challenging, has a great deal of difficulty to it. So it seems like you should kind of just be focusing on a specific team that will be able to overcome those challenges. But I want to be able to develop all my heroes. Like all of these people are on my team. I'm the type who, in a game like Pillars of Eternity, I keep everybody properly leveled up. Everybody has the gear that they need for their particular class. Like to me, I take care of my party members. That's what that's part of the joy for me in playing these types of games. The idea that, well, party members that you don't use, you basically ignore them. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. If the system does not appeal to me. And on top of only getting XP for party members who are in the mission, the skill point pool is global. Meaning if you use a certain amount of skill points on one character, well, those skill points will not be available for another character. So it's basically on two levels. You have to be really, really careful about who you're using in missions and who you're spending skill points on, because no matter what, you're going to be leaving people behind, or you're going to be in a situation where everybody's kind of mediocre. And to me, it just adds a level of management and a level of uncomfortable decision making that kind of doesn't appeal to me, to be honest with you. I would really, really prefer that my party members just leveled up, and whoever I want to use, okay, I'll use them. I'm cool with the global skill pool. That, to me, that's fine. But when I'm ready to spend points on a particular party member, I want to just be able to do that. Again, I might feel differently by the time we get to the end of the game. All of this is, of course, subject to change, but that's where I'm sitting right now. So to kind of recap, I think combat is incredible. I think it really, really pushes you to use all the tactics available. I think the art is amazing. I think there's a really nice variety in heroes. They're using different mechanics, and there's multiple ways for you to play based upon whatever is your particular preference. And I think the whole vibe and tone of the story and the desperate situation these heroes are in and the viciousness with which villains deal with both the heroes and the civilians around them is all really cool and makes this game distinctive and interesting to go through. But there are some drawbacks. I'm not a big fan of the writing thus far, and I think the leveling system adds a layer of complication that kind of takes away from some of the fun and forces in replayability in a way that I don't particularly like. So that's my thoughts thus far after going through about half of Capes. I will definitely do a full review once I have completed the game, but leave me your thoughts down below. Do you plan to pick up the game next week? Is there any particular content you want to see about the game? Let me know. I'd be happy to give you all whatever you like, and hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.